cannot financial literacy your way out of poverty, and I really wish y'all would stop acting like you can.
All right, we started off strong. She said, you cannot financial literacy your way out of poverty. And I'm not really sure what she meant by that, but I think it implies that financial literacy is not enough by itself to get out of poverty. And to that, I would say I agree if that's what she's saying. But I believe that if you come from poverty and you have financial literacy, this can be used as a tool, and a very powerful tool, but it's by no means a magical bullet, just like saying, somebody can study to be a nurse, right? And if they're not applying what they learned to be a nurse, then you just have great knowledge and you're not doing anything with it, if you get what I mean. So what I think is very important is what you're actually doing day by day, the decisions that you're making, the actions that you're making towards your life. But financial literacy will also help somebody that is in poverty avoid traps, high interest debt, credit card debt, payday loans, things like that. And you even see this in a lot of areas where there is extreme poverty. You see people have these stories about payday loans. They live in particular communities that happen to have poverty. And while I don't think they should be there at all, I think this is one of the reasons why I think financial literacy is important, so people understand why they should try to avoid these things, even though they may see it in their communities.
If the ends don't meet, the ends don't meet. What y'all are doing is putting the onus of a predatory cyclical system on the victims of said system. Because when you really think about it, people who have less to spend have to be more vigilant about how they spend it.
Well, isn't that okay? I get what she's saying, but I also feel like that's another way that financial literacy kind of comes into what she's even saying right here. The awareness of how you're spending your money is being financially literate. It's having the understanding of money and how you can better spend things, how to save, budget, all of that stuff. It's how you're handling money, which is financial literacy, which is still important, even if you are in poverty. Because as she said, and I do agree, when you are in poverty, you have less resources and you need to be more vigilant about how you're spending. Because if you're in real poverty, every way that you spend money is extremely important. A minute ago, she said that if the ends don't meet, the ends don't meet. And how I kind of took that, and I could be totally wrong because it's just my interpretation, I took that as if you don't have enough money, then maybe you're not coming out of poverty. And that's just kind of based off of the context of this whole conversation here, right? Now, I fully understand that people born in poverty do not have the same advantages and resources as a lot of other people who are not born in poverty. So I get where she's coming from with that because they face obstacles like not even having the same sort of education, limited resources, sometimes even systematic inequalities, racism even in some cases, yeah. And by no means am I trying to downplay how crucial and important these things are and how these are big hurdles for people to cross. And it's even more impressive when you see somebody that's come from that, able to make better for themselves. But I will say, I think it's important to empower people that come from those sort of communities and not just, I'm not saying she's saying financial literacy isn't important. She's saying that's not enough to get you out of poverty, which, yeah, I think you might need education. You might need a trade. You might need a skill. You're going to have something in order to get yourself out of that equation. Because if you're living in poverty, a lot of the times you don't make a certain amount of money. And then all the things that I just named might come with your community, right? And you could have all the knowledge in the world. And if you don't have enough income to do anything with all of the knowledge, then that could end up being an obstacle for someone. And then once you get the resources, where a lot of people say, like, they were able to change their life. They're like, oh, I got this job and I started doing this or I started doing that. And I hope somebody in the comments just share their story of coming out of poverty, because I've talked to so many people in this situation where they will literally tell you they come from nothing. They had a horrible education. When they came up, they weren't being taught certain things and they got a certain job, or they went and got an education, or they got a cert, or they started a business or something like that. And I say that to empower people to try. I think a lot of people truly think there is no way. There's no way if you're just from an area, you're stuck there forever. And I don't believe that to be true. But I'm not saying it's going to be easy, though. I just understand we all are dealt different hands in life, and you got to do the best with what you were given. And I really hope that even people who aren't given the best hands in life are able to make something of themselves, because that's a testimony. If you're able to come from poverty and able to pull yourself up, that says a lot. And for anybody that has done that, I'm extremely proud of you. Yeah.
You thinking that people lack financial literacy because they prioritize joy one time, prioritize feeling important or confident one time, is absolute insane. And I don't think that y'all realize how much you're perpetuating the negative stereotypes of poverty. the way that y'all are making it seem like poverty is just thrust upon people and people do nothing to get out of it.
And this is why I said earlier, you're given the hand you're dealt and you do the best you can. It's definitely not like anybody signs up to be born in a life of poverty. No, nobody asked for that. To be quite honest, none of us asked to be here. Like, our parents are the reason we're here. I want to speak to her point where she was saying something like, when people make one decision to do something for themselves or to make themselves feel good, that means that they're not financially literate. I think it's really just about balance. Like, if you want to get an ice cream because you had a bad day, like, I get it, you know? But what I think is more common amongst people is, unfortunately, a bad set of financial decisions back to back to back to back to back to back, and never really any good financial decisions. And I think that's why I say balance is important. I think some people think that if you're financially literate, like, you're just having the life sucked out of you and you're not able to have fun or you're not able to do anything. And it's all about balance. I think it's actually more beneficial because then you can actually enjoy the fruits of your labor long term. Even for people who are financially literate and aren't in poverty, there is sacrifice made by those people in order to do the things that they like to do. But everybody's financial situation is so different that it creates a lot of nuance when we have these conversations, because one single purchase and one, bit of fun for somebody might not be a big deal. But for the next person, if you're in poverty, that same purchase might be deal breaking for you for the next 10 years, the next 20 years, For example, a person in poverty getting a new Ford Bronco, which it can be done. Them getting a Ford Bronco, somebody else married getting the same Ford Bronco, but they make $200,000 collectively and you live by yourself and you're in poverty and you go do this. Same car, right? Different result. That can cripple one person. And I just think that that's why it's important to think about how these sort of purchases affect people individually, because a single purchase today can definitely jeopardize your tomorrow.
As opposed to, it is cyclical, it is on purpose, it is expensive to be poor. It is illegal a lot of times to be poor when you really look at the laws and how they function. Y'all want to feel better by holding these financial literacy classes, by trying to teach people financial literacy, as if that's going to make them make more money.
In order to make more money, they have to do the work to make the money. And we kind of touched on that earlier. And she does have a good point. You do have to do the work. People have to make more income. And I know people don't want to hear that. I think there is a thought that there is another way. And I do agree that it shouldn't be so hard. It is not as easy for people that are in poverty to do this. There are a lot of barriers for people in poverty that shouldn't be there. But I also feel like two things can be true at once. I think there can be a lot of work that needs to be done systematically to help people that are in poverty, while I still feel like financial literacy is good for everybody. It doesn't matter if you come from poverty, if you're a regular person, if you're a single mom, if you're a single dad, if you're a married couple, it honestly doesn't matter. But what all these people do with this information does matter. And what they do with their income that they do get matters. And how much income they do decide to go out and get will matter, And I also understand the harm that negative stereotypes can cause when she was talking about that. But I also think another stereotype is that people from poverty aren't good with money. And I'm not saying that's what I believe. I think that that is a stereotype. So if we want to fight back against these sort of things, I think financial literacy would be good to include in that fight. I honestly don't feel like financial literacy classes are about like blaming anybody, like, oh, y'all are just trying to teach people financial literacy. I don't see where the crime is. I think that that's empowering. That's personal development. These are practical skills that people can apply to their lives, even if it's something small like budgeting or how to, be better with budgeting or even creating a budget. Maybe then you can help your mom with a budget or your sister or somebody that is not good with handling money, because now you can, extend that out to your community, which in turn challenges a lot of the very stereotypes that we're talking about. And also you can be an asset to other people to help them out. And that's really what it's all about, is being able to help people. I understand that this isn't the ideal situation for people to be in, but I do feel like you can still grow and elevate and learn and do things different that might be able to still help your life day by day and help the others around you.
Like, are y'all really serious? Y'all cannot sit here and be like, oh, we need to fight for better wages for me, but then poor people, oh, that shit is their fault. Like, come on, y'all really need to stop this.
That was another time where I feel like two things can be true at once. Like, while you are in your fight for better wages, you can also try to get more financially literate. I don't think that you have to like choose a side and be like, oh, I'm only focused on this. Like, you can do both. And I'm not saying one is more important than the other. If that's, what you want to take your stance on, take your stance.
You can have financial literacy your way out of poverty. However, a bunch of fucking money gurus on TikTok have been stitching my video and alleging that you can't. And the only thing I regret about those videos is not saying you can't. Positive mindset, ebook, cult, multi-level marketing scheme your way out of poverty either. So let's look.
I strongly disagree with her.
I 1,000% disagree with this creator.
There are people who have financial literacy their way out of poverty, so that means that it can be done. That's the short of it. If it's one person that's able to do something, that's proof that it can be done, and others can do it as well.
Hundreds and hundreds of people through this.
Being poor is a choice. Poor literally stands for passing over opportunities repeatedly. And the key is mindset. It is mindset. How we think, what we say determines things that I am a part of that teaches people how to make, save, and protect their money.
So somebody has been working in the financial space for the past decade, 11, 12 years as a financial coach, somebody helping people that are...
And this is exactly what I was saying. They're placing the onus, the responsibility, the culpability of being poor onto poor people, not at all looking at the system. Yeah, they may say really quickly, like, yeah, we get it systemic, but you know what? That's no excuse for you. And lastly, Chris, you saying, oh, my family must have been scorned or I must be scorned. Be f***ing for real. I just have 2 brain cells. Keep my family out of your f***ing mouth.
Okay, we don't want no smoke over here. I'm just trying to look at the video. And I do hear a lot of people say poverty is a mindset. I think when people are saying that, and I'm not choosing sides here, this is just my thoughts, and I don't want no smoke with nobody. I think people are saying possibly that some people have a certain way of thinking that may hinder them from better possibilities in the future. That's what I think they're essentially saying. When I was talking about poverty earlier, I was talking more so about people who grew up in poverty. Being in poverty is not something that anybody wants, but we also have to understand that in this world, and I know a lot of y'all ain't going like this, but there's going to be rich people, there's going to be poor people. It's written in the good book, y'all. It's written in the Bible. There's going to be rich and there's going to be poor. Yes, there is systems in place, but I also kind of get where she's coming from because I believe what she's saying is, and I could be off, but y'all let me know. I think what she is saying is you could have the mindset, like have this good mindset, but it's not enough just to have the mindset. You could have the knowledge, but it's not just enough to have the knowledge. You know what I mean? I think you need money in order to like go from one social class to the next. Like when I hear people talk about the fact that they got out of poverty, I hear them say, oh, I got this scholarship and then I went to college, blah, blah, and then I was able to land this job and then I quit that job and then I worked for this, blah, blah, blah. And though I think it does take a certain mindset to accomplish certain goals in life and things of that sort, in order to get out of poverty, it's not just enough to have mindset. It's not ever just enough in this world to have mindset, in my opinion. I think in this world, you have to do the work. Have y'all ever met somebody that was like extremely book smart, but they had no street smarts? You put them in the real world, they can't function, they don't know what to do, but they are smart and they have all this knowledge. And you would think that if you put them in situations that they would know what to do and how to handle themselves and be socially aware and all these things because they're smart. But that's not the case because there's not any action behind it. But if you're book smart and you actually apply what you know from the books and you're able to take the knowledge, for example, if you're financially literate and you've learned something and you say, hey, part of my financial literacy, from what I understand, is that I need to make more money. Like that's an honest conversation that a lot of people have whenever they're talking about their financial situation. And with that, you then might be able to make some steps. But if you didn't have financial literacy, maybe perhaps your parents didn't teach you anything, you didn't have anyone around you to talk to you about these sort of things and how to handle money. When you got the money, if that was the case, some people didn't make the right decision. Some people blew it. I can't count how many times I heard people say, oh, I signed with the NFL and I got my first check and I blew it. And then when they go to explain and they're like, well, I ain't never had no money before. Nobody in my family ever had money. Like when we didn't even know what to do with it. We just got rid of it. And that's what I mean. It's not even the fact that you have money that's all of a sudden going to change your whole life, because there are a lot of 6-figure earners who are living paycheck to paycheck. It has a lot to do with mindset, yes, but it also has a lot to do with the income. And it also has a lot to do with, are you financially literate when it comes to your income and actually applying the principles you understand and know into your life and having the discipline to do it even when you don't want to. I think that's what makes the big difference. Collectively, all of those things. But to speak to her point, like what she's saying, it's like saying after you read an ebook, you're about to be out of poverty. No, you're going to have to do something to get out of poverty. And you may have a level of awareness of, hey, I might need to make some changes in my life to get out. But the reading ain't enough. So I get what she's saying, but it's a lot. Even though this conversation got a little heavy, I honestly don't see any wrong with having like a difference of opinion and everybody sharing, even though I know it got a little heated here. But y'all, let me know what you think about all this. Do you think that you can financial literacy your way out of poverty? I don't even know if I understand what that means all the way, but if I'm off, let me know down below. And we have to start making better decisions today in order to have a better future.